Welcome to Football Today, Week 7 NFL Recap. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Penik, and we are presented by Captain Morgan, the Morgan who is the captain. No Chris Rose. He's busy doing his other NFL job for NFL Network. He called the Jags-Patriots game. Hey, maybe we'll talk about Drake May a little bit in that, even though it was, a lopsided loss. Justin, Week 7 of the NFL's over. We had some big matchups. Battle for the number 1 seed in the NFC. We had a rematch of the Super Bowl. We had, your two young, upcoming teams that everyone loves in the Packers and Texans, and the revenge game for Saquon Barkley. How are you?
I'm good, man. We really only had one true. I know the Packers and the Texans was close, but one true real exciting game that came down to the end in the Lions and the Vikings, and that game certainly didn't disappoint. A lot of interesting storylines to come out of this weekend, a lot of interesting conversations, but I'm really excited to talk about this Lions-Vikings game, Bobby Skinner, because the game was exciting, and that's why we watch football.
And Lions-Vikings was the La Vida Mas Fina, brought to you by Corona Game of the Week. And the Lions won 31-29 on a game-winning field goal. Lions moved to 5-1. Vikings fall to 5-1. Vikings take their first loss of the season. The Lions are now the number 1 seed in the NFC. This was, Ben Johnson versus Brian Flores, super match. And this Lions offense is just, it's a well-oiled machine. They're averaging over 30 points per game, over 400 yards per game. They're third in passing, fourth in rushing. And they didn't even start off super hot. But these last 4 games, they've been unstoppable. Unstoppable outside of them fumbling, a football. Where Goff's completed 84% of his passes over the last 4 games, 9 touchdowns, an interception, 12 yards per attempt. Right? There's quarterbacks who are looked at as decent, who average 6 yards per attempt. He's averaging double that, Justin. And they're just, every play looks easy for them. We're going to talk about other teams where I'm every play looks tough. Cough, cough, New York Jets. With the Lions, it's every play looks easy. Yeah,
and just as much as I've complimented cover zero looks and the Broncos and the Vikings and the Vikings defense this year, that they're the lead catalyst of showing those looks, Jared Goff owned versus the blitz, and owned versus the blitzes specifically against the Vikings. He's owned versus the blitz the last couple weeks in general, but especially against the Vikings, just some awesome stuff. You want to know? There were some funny nuggets this weekend of the NFL weekend, Bobby. And one of the funnier nuggets. This is how you know everything's clicking on all cylinders and everything's going right. The Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown, big play touchdown in the middle of the field. Beautiful throw by Jared Goff, and great job by Jared Goff, kind of manipulating the eyes of the secondary players, thinking, oh, he's going to go to Jameson Williams on the left-hand side. And then he works his eyes and he works his feet back over to the middle of the field where Amon-Ra's running that streak. If Jared Goff held onto the ball for an extra second, Jameson Williams is running a double move. He gets his corner on ice, so he could have thrown the ball to Jameson Williams probably for a big play touchdown too. So that's how you know that everything's working. And they run the damn ball pretty well too. But Goff under pressure and Goff with the blitz, just incredible quarterback play that we're seeing from the Lions right now. But it really does start off with that offensive line.
Yeah, that offensive line allows you to do so much that even when you do blitz, that rush is not getting there quickly. And listen, the Vikings got 4 sacks in this game, which is, not the norm for the Lions. But they were just able to hit them back so much with the running game. And this is exactly what I want of the Lions offense. Obviously, I'd want more from this, but Jameson Williams has 1 catch for -4 yards. But you know why I don't give a shit about that? I don't care about that at all. It's because he opened up so much space for other guys, right? Whenever they did play action, there was so much room in the middle of the field, and that offensive line gives you time to protect, and then Amon-Ra has 8 catches. You mentioned the Amon-Ra touchdown. Well, guess why Jared Goff didn't wait and throw the ball to Jameson Williams on a double move? Because the safety bails to Jameson Williams' side, and then he gets, Amon-Ra one-on-one for that touchdown. So, he creates space from the middle, and then it seems like every rush is success for them for 2, right? Jahmyr Gibbs has the big explosive one. They had a 3rd and 7 at the 9-yard line that went for a touchdown. Watching them is like playing pro level on Madden. where it's like I can kind of just sit back here and do whatever I want as a passing offense. And when I do hand the ball off, which I'm going to do quite a bit, I'm getting 5 to 7 yards a pop every time.
Yeah, which is why, I mean, heading into the year, I just thought that this offensive roster, or I said roster in general, but specifically this offense was just going to overpower teams. And then on top of that, you have a really good offensive coordinator that's, continuing to find new and fun and exciting ways of getting his players in open space, running trick plays that just work, that aren't like your conventional risky trick plays because they practice them. So yeah, I mean they're clicking on all cylinders right now, man, and it's fun. They're a kick-ass team, and we say the same thing every single week, but it's working, and they did it against, I think, Minnesota. We've been talking about, that's the Viking. Everybody talks about Sam Darnold and the Vikings offense of Justin Jefferson. We've been sitting here saying, no, it's been the Vikings defense that's been kind of carrying them, and certainly wasn't against the Lions. Which, by the way, I think Ben Johnson, going back to last year too, 2 good matchups with 2, I think, somewhat high-scoring outputs and 2 wins last year for the Lions against Brian Flores. And then even now this year, another good offensive output game. So if there's one coordinator that may have Brian Flores' number, it's Ben Johnson.
Yeah, but you thought it'd be a little different. Now, and Flores actually blitzed more. I thought he would dial it back a little bit.
He ramped it up.
Goff. Yeah, he's ramped it up compared to what he's done. Because, again, he hasn't blitzed as crazily this year compared to last year. What he has done is just shown the blitzes and then backs everybody out. Defensively, first game without Aiden Hutchinson versus the Lions, or full game. I mean, Brian Branch is like the difference between winning and losing for the Lions. The Lions here.
100%.
Right? Like, you have the interception on the Jordan Addison throw of Sam Darnold. He makes that stop on the 2-point conversion and end up being, it's a 2-point. They won the game by 2 points. He makes a crazy instinctual stop at the 2-point conversion. That's the type of stuff you saw at Alabama, where it's like, stop talking about it's 40 time. Look at this. Look at the way he's able to bait the quarterback into thinking his read is open and then stopping it. He had another, big, pass breakup. He's awesome this year. He's second in interceptions with safeties, tied with his teammate Kirby Joseph, by the way, only behind Xavier McKinney. So both those guys are creating turnovers. He's first in safety pass breakups. It's going to be tough sledding for the Lions defense, I think, for the rest of the year. But what they just need to do is they have an offense that's going to put them in advantage, whatever word I'm trying to use there, in good situations, Justin.
Yes.
Good's always always a good word to use. And just being able to create turnovers and get some types of coverage sacks, because I think they had 4 sacks in this game as well. But it's a hard way to live like that, but that offense allows you to do it. And you see Brian Branch comes in this game and has the play. But I still do worry about them a little bit because, Justin Jefferson had some good moments. Jordan Addison, some big plays, or a big play. Now, that's a good Vikings offense, but you're a couple of Sam Darnold bad decisions away from, losing this game too. But at the same time, the defense was like, they gave up a touchdown or 6 points on the, Montgomery fumble that Ivan Pace returned for a touchdown.
Vikings offense did have 9 plays of 17+ yards.
Yeah, they moved the ball pretty well. It's just they didn't execute when they needed, right? You have the bad Sam Darnold interception. Now, I will say, like, as much as I'm not, like, on this, like, Sam Darnold's actually just really good right now. He does make some throws, and I see why people will never give up on him completely. And he's obviously playing good right now, and he's taking advantage of being able to be in that Kevin O'Connell Vikings offense. Like that throw to Justin Jefferson, the other one to Jordan Addison.
Yeah, the 51-yarder.
Like, those are just like those. This is why people can never quit Sam Darnold, because it's like he puts this type of stuff on tapes. But they feel good. The interceptions make you worry with Sam Darnold. He had some bad moments versus the Jets in the last game, but Vikings are 5-1. So I don't feel any worse about the Vikings coming away from this game. I just come away from it like, all right, Lions are better. This was a who's better game. To me, it's the Lions. And I don't think the 2-point score, I think, doesn't do justice of how much better the Lions were actually in this game.
Yeah, I really don't walk away from this game with any vast differing opinions of either team. The only thing I walk away with saying, as we were saying it even last week too, is the Lions do need to make a trade for an edge rusher. Like they need to make a trade. You need to call the Panthers. You need to get Jadeveon Clowney. Is he going to be the answer? No. Maybe you need to poke your head in with the Las Vegas Raiders and see what Max Crosby's doing, even though Max Crosby probably doesn't want to leave Las Vegas because he's a Vegas guy. That one's going to cost
too much.
I know. But if you want to go for it, then you go for it, right? And you can even have Max Crosby there even when Aiden Hutchinson gets back, which would be fun. But if this is a team that wants to go for it and have a big swing and not just a Jadeveon Clowney from the Carolina Panthers, it's something that maybe they should consider. Obviously, it takes two to tango. Yeah, but I'm not walking away from this game being like, the Vikings are in trouble or anything like that. Some of the throws that Darnold made were awesome and insane. And again, this was an offense that had 9 plays of 17 plus yards and 4 plays of 25 plus yards. I think they're going to continue to be fine.
Yeah, I just feel so like because this was the game where I'm like, Vikings are really like Lions can beat anybody, but the Vikings, man, can make it really tough on you. This was the game that I was like, all right, Lions, prove me right in picking you to win the Super Bowl. Again, I do still have some worries about that defense without Aiden Hutchinson. And hey, maybe a 2-point conversion that's completed makes this a totally different game, but they ended up pulling it out, and they look so good offensively. Justin, the game of the week was brought to you by Corona. You know what I always try to be? A fan that never loses, which the New York Giants, they make it hard. But here's what I mean. The Giants don't win every single week. But even when they lose, I'm still loving the game, baby. I got passion. Yep, I'm still loving football. Because whether it's a big, deep ball, like the Lions like to complete, or some third and short conversions, like the Lions like to complete, or just a tailgate out in the parking lot, like they have in Detroit, there's always something to cheer for. And the best beer to pair with awesome moments, Corona. Corona is all about finding the maximum amount of joy within every moment of the game, win or lose, at home or on the road. It's the most perfect beer to go along with watching football and all the moments that come with it. By the way, I had my bachelor party over the weekend. Corona was the beer of choice. So cheers to everyone who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona, for the fans who never lose. Get yours at ordercorona.com. For 21 plus, relax responsibly. Corona extra beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. You'll be glad you did. You'll be glad that you did. Justin, we had a rematch of the Super Bowl, and I felt like it wasn't like the most biggest game of the week. Chiefs 28, 49ers 18. The Chiefs moved to 6-0, the only undefeated team in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns this year. How do they do it?
How do they do it is they're running the ball.
They just grind it out, man.
They're running the ball and they're playing good defense.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt is, filling in for Isaiah Pacheco correctly. And it's just, again, you look at Patrick Mahomes' stats and you're like, that's bad quarterback play. Like, that's 6 touchdowns, that 8 interceptions, the second lowest average depth of target in the NFL. Like, that is bad quarterback play. But then when you watch their games, you're also like, that's some bad quarterback play. Like, he missed Xavier Worthy for a deep touchdown. But in the reality is just, when it matters, they get every yard that they need. And it's not pretty. It's not off one big play. It's not these super, like, first down, second down, first down, second down. A lot of times it's first down, second down, third down, first down, second down, third down, fourth down. First down, like, it's just they get every inch that they need and not a single inch more.
No, and I mean, the strength of their team right now, outside of, you would think Patrick Mahomes and having one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but still, Patrick Mahomes is still a good quarterback, is still a very good quarterback at, and we've talked about this on the show before, at managing how teams play him. Like, the lowest average depth of target in the league, it's almost because I feel like he needs to have one of the lowest average depth of targets. Because it's the way teams play him, right? But the Chiefs, what they're doing on offense this year, is they're leaning into the strengths of their team. And especially now that Rashee Rice is out, Pacheco's out for a little bit, but they're leaning into the strength of their team, which is that interior offensive line. The Chiefs called 23 design runs between the tackles on Sunday, their most in a game since the next-gen stats era started in 2016. And they recorded a 47.8% success rate on those runs in between the tackles. And the Chiefs have recorded a 55.2% success rate on design runs inside the tackles, the second highest rate in the NFL. And I couldn't believe this when I saw this, but according to our friend Nate Tice, they recorded their first explosive running back rush of the year on a 13-yard Kareem Hunt run in the third quarter on a 2nd and 6 against the 49ers. Bobby, they've been churning. Just chug, 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 chug. Such a high success rate without utilizing explosive running back plays, and it's all coming up the middle. It's the strength of their team. It's the source of their offense, and it literally is a heartbeat. Like, you want to know how a heartbeat goes? Just nice and slow, nice and steady. That's the Chiefs' offense, and it's not great. It's not sexy, but it's also not bad.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, their running back's longest run of the year is 13 yards. Like, I think that tells the story for a team that's 10th in the NFL in rushing. They're 10th in the NFL in rushing, and their longest handoff run is 13 yards. That's unbelievable. Obviously Patrick Mahomes, we talk about, he has, second lowest average depth of target. But at the end of the day, they're 13th in scoring. They're, which isn't great, right? That's not what we expect out of a Chiefs Super Bowl team, is to be 13th in points per game. We expect them to be top 5 in that area. But they're 9th in EPA per play, so they're getting the plays they mean. And then on the defensive side, like, they're playing extremely well. Like, this was Brock Purdy's worst game of the year by far to me. Like, by far. Like, I think Brock Purdy's played pretty damn well all year and played better than what people gave him credit for last year. But this game, man, just was pitiful. Under pressure, was 2 for 8 with 2 interceptions. Took sacks too. Like, it was a pretty pitiful game from Brock Purdy, where I haven't come from a lot of games being like just pitiful from Brock Purdy, like a mistake here or there. This was the worst game. This was the first game where I'm like, this was just an awful performance by you.
Well, we have to talk about Brandon Ayuk tearing his ACL too, and now he's out for the season. But I also think teams are starting to expose the 49ers' weapons are not getting open against man coverage. The Chiefs played man coverage almost all game. They pressed up at the line, and nobody's getting open. And I think Brock, where we've seen good Brock Purdy stuff, is if you're in zone and then guys know how to find holes in the zone, and Brock Purdy knows how to pick it apart. But if you're just playing man coverage, I like that. That's a feeling to me, being like, guys just got to get open, and guys are just not getting open right now. For Brock Purdy, we know that they're trying to stretch the field a little bit more without McCaffrey, and we know they kind of have to do that. So yeah, it was bad, but also credit to that Chiefs defense, where this is just what they do sometimes, man. This is what they do to quarterbacks, and I also need to stop with the talking point of the Chiefs do not have a good rushing defense, that teams need to start running the ball, because that's not true. Teams are actually Chiefs defense is actually much better against the run than I initially thought, or at least what they were last year. So they're playing really good ball right now, and I really do think that this is a defense that, once again, can win in the playoffs and can take them to places where they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, they're undefeated. Like, I feel really good about predicting Lions Chiefs in the Super Bowl, through the first third of the season. But the 49ers are now 3-4. Are you worried about them? They're one game back in the division of the Seahawks. I'm not like fully worried about them, but I don't think you can feel like they're clearly worse than what they were last year. They're missing Chris McCaffrey. I'm not convinced that he's ever coming back. You have, it's not just guys losing versus man coverage, right? Like, they run a return route in the end zone, 3rd and goal, and Purdy throws it right into a linebacker's hands, gets baited into that throw. Like, are you worried that they're just not going to be able to be like a real contender in the NFC?
No, I am worried, because I mean, I'm checking to make sure. I think Brandon Ayuk is feared to have suffered a torn ACL. So that was 18 hours ago.
That's what they think it is.
So that's what they think it is. It's not fully confirmed. I thought it was confirmed.
Deebo Samuel left the game too. It's
like, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about,
or he was sick, but still,
the heartbeat.
He's got injury issues.
The heartbeat of your team is the star power, right? And McCaffrey may be done. Ayuk may be done. Deebo is, he's been struggling with injuries.
He's healthy, but he's dealt with injuries. Kittle's obviously dealt with injuries.
So yeah, there is worry. How can you not be worried?
Yeah, but do you think they win the NFC West still? So, I mean, we're coming a week away, week and 3 days away from them smacking the Seahawks.
This is all on if the Seahawks can. I think the Seahawks can win the NFC West with the talent that they have, the offensive firepower they have, the talent on defense. But if they're an inconsistent football team, then the 49ers will walk away with the 10-7, 9-8 record and win the division.
Let me ask you this. Next week we have a Sunday Night Football game against the Cowboys. They've owned the Cowboys. And the Cowboys aren't that good. Are you expecting the 49ers to go out and dominate that game?
Yes, because they're going to run the damn ball. And they could still do that.
That's where I'm at too. But, we talk about the NFC hierarchy. It's like the Lions and I'm taking the Lions and the Vikings over them.
Yes.
They play the Bucks in 2 weeks. I think I might pick the Bucks at this point.
How about the Eagles?
I take the 49ers over the Eagles
Isn't
and
it
the
funny?
Cowboys.
Isn't it funny that my brain went to Eagles before Commanders?
Commanders would be interesting. I would take the 49ers over the Commanders still. So to me, it's the Lions and Vikings I clearly take over San Fran. And then Green Bay is I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think I would take Green Bay over. I mean, their defense, we're going to talk about it. Their defense had a really, really good game. Kind of like almost a coming out party against the Texans because of how they won.
I'm excited to talk about them.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd want to stay confident in the 49ers, but at some point these injuries are going to catch up with you.
So. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's there. I think we've reached that point.
This was the game that they needed to win because the Chiefs, again, undefeated, but are not like this, this juggernaut offense type of team. Their defense is really good, but they're not this. This was the game they needed to win, and they choked it. All right, Justin, let's talk about Sunday Night Football. The Steelers. Russell Wilson makes his debut. Steelers country, let's ride. And they dominate the New York Jets. Do we have to give up on the Jets now? Like, forget looking ahead at their schedule. Like, do we just look at them like their only wins are against the Patriots and Titans? They suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at their schedule is kind of necessary because the NFL, and we talked on their TPP, Bobby. One of the directors of communication, blah blah blah, at the NFL headquarters when they decide the schedule every year. For the last 2 years, the NFL has literally begged the New York Jets. Now, they can't decide who you play, but the NFL can decide when you play teams. The NFL perfectly structured it so that the Jets, through the months of September and October, can be a competing football team. The NFL was begging the Jets to do this. Not a ton, or, the divisional matchups that you can handle, against the Patriots, the Titans, teams that you already mentioned. Even the Steelers should have been a game that the Jets win, right? And they're 2-5. And what's crazy is that they have the same record as the other New York team of the Giants that are seen as a disaster.
And they just the firing of Robert Saleh to me is so dumb because all they did was they just gave Jeff Ulbrich more responsibilities, right? They didn't, upgrade a special teams coordinator or a tight end coach or whoever, someone who's like can really take over the CEO role and get guys like, changing the way you practice. But like they didn't change anything. Like what do? They make more mental mistakes. Like that's the one thing when you change a head coach, it's like, all right, no more mental mistakes. They make twice as many mental mistakes now, right? With false starts and drops and, getting field goals blocked twice in one game. Like they make more and more mistakes. And I keep coming away from these games, like, because Aaron Rodgers is obviously the face that everyone wants to go at. I come away from these games, I'm like, I feel like Rodgers is playing solid football. The first interception to Beanie Bishop is like that's a great play by that corner, right? He really baited Rodgers. But then the second one, man, is like Rodgers. That ball comes out of Rodgers' hands, and I'm like, that's a beautiful ball. Like that's a perfect ball. That's such a tough throw. And then Garrett Wilson drops it, and he turns it into an interception that brings the Steelers back to the 1 yard line. Since they're down one, they pound it in, and the game's over at that point, essentially. But we talked about with the Lions, where I'm like, everything feels easy. Every Jets play on offense, feels like it's 3rd and 8, and it's a play where your quarterback has to hang in there and fit a ball into a tight zone and move guys with his eyes and just have the best play of the game every single game. There's no easy buttons. They don't have the explosive plays that they were strutting around in training camp. Garrett Wilson's dropping pass, Garrett Wilson dropping passes may have led to them losing these last 2 games against the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I don't look at Aaron Rodgers' play and blame him, right? Because you go look at the interceptions against the Vikings in this last game, right? So you ask one. But what I do look at is this is the Jets making a mess. This is the Jets bringing in Nate Hackett to try and bring in Aaron Rodgers, and Nate Hackett being an awful OC. And then you play Todd Downing, you upgrade Todd Downing with Nate Hackett still there. That offense is ugly. You're living, Breece Hall has some good moments in this game, but he hasn't been able to be consistent as a rusher in this offense. Tyrone Smith is not playing very well. And then the defense isn't playing up to what it has the last couple years, which guess what? When you lose Robert Saleh, you just lost a really good defensive voice and mind in that room. I understand Jeff Goldberg has been the defensive coordinator, but Robert Saleh is a big damn part of that. And it's just a mess. And you have, Woody Johnson, doing his press conferences, and they bring Devontae Adams in to me a week too late, and now Hassan Reddick's back, and they basically return to him all his money. So it all feels like too little, too late, and it's I don't want to completely give up on them, but they give you no choice but to give up on them.
Yeah, they're 2-5. They're 2-5, and the teams that they've played, the NFL set it up so that they can win these games. So that in the month of November and December, the Jets are playing competitive football, and they may not be playing competitive football because they don't look like a competitive football team. It's a tough watch.
It's just a watch. Everything's a mess. It feels like they're playing in pouring rain every single week. The way they play. Yep. Now I hate that we didn't do it, but Russell Wilson, big plays, getting George Pickens, 100+ yards and a touchdown, the highest scoring game for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Were we wrong? Was everybody wrong and freaking out about this move, Justin?
For 1 week, yeah. I don't know if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to really, and Russell Wilson, if you're going to live off of contested catches. That's the only thing, but...
That's what they were doing with Justin Fields, though.
That is, but... Russell Wilson was able to get the ball to Freiermuth so he can make some nice plays. George Pickens, you get Calvin Austin in space. So you can't even say, look at the defense that they were playing. The Jets' secondary in particular was pretty good. They're one of the best in the NFL, and I know they had some injuries and they were banged up a little bit. Sauce Gardner came out for a little bit, but still, they let George Pickens go up and make some plays, and they let him do it a ton. And the dude's just an animal. He's a monster.
Yeah, that's what their offense is. But I thought they were, closing drive, you get a 36-yard play to Calvin Austin. Pat Freiermuth gets a 30-yard catch. So I thought it gave them more ability to create explosives in the offense. Now, again, you could overreact to this game and say, see, Justin Fields is not a better option for the Steelers right now than Russell Wilson. Because it is one game. And Russell Wilson is still not throwing to the middle of the field at all,
no,
right? Literally at all, which, again, is a very similar flaw of Justin Fields, even though he started to do it a little more down the stretch. But he doesn't have the scrambling ability that Justin Fields has. And you saw that, right? Especially early on. At one point, Russell Wilson was 2 for 9 with 19 yards. And there's some plays where man, Fields probably would escape there. But he finishes 14 of 20, 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. And there's also a big pass interference to Pickens that isn't in the stat book. But I felt like the play action game was just working a lot better with Russell Wilson, which we know Arthur Smith loves, where Justin Fields, I don't think the play action game was really creating the explosives that they desired.
No, and I think Justin Fields had I think Russell Wilson had 60% of his snaps come from under center, and that was the highest rate that he's had in a game in the last couple of years. So I think maybe a half decade plus. And under center play action, that when they made this move, and it's all right, well, Arthur Smith's the OC, you bring in Russell Wilson, that's the recipe for success, right? That's what you remember a lot of the highlight plays from Seattle. The big arm throws that Russell Wilson had, it's under center play action to Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, on the sideline or in the middle of the field. That's what you remember. So you got a little bit of that magic here. I'm not going to dismiss 37 points against a good Jets defense. I just have the question of any offense that does this, Bobby. Any offense that tries to live off of contested grabs and contested catches and you just utilizing the sideline and not being so versatile, I just question the, how consistent can you be? How sustainable is that?
Oh, yeah, I don't think the Steelers' offense is now great now that Russell Wilson's the starter. I'm just talking about in the vacuum of Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson, where I think what Russell Wilson does gives you the ability for more explosive off-play action, right? Where Justin Fields is averaging 5 yards per attempt on play action. Wilson averaged 13 yards per attempt in this game. Obviously, that's not going to continue throughout the whole year, but he just gives it gives you Calvin Austin, him to get a 36-yard play. They were finding Darnell Washington in the flat a couple times. So I do think it gives them a little more of the passing offense. We'll see how much it catches up with them. But I think they're going to continue to win games. I mean, their next game is Monday Night Football versus the Giants. I think we're all picking the Steelers in that one.
Yep.
But it is so let me say right, all right, on the record, because the moment, is going to Russell Wilson the correct decision for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I still will say no, because they were a 4-2 football team and Justin Fields was taking care of the football, but also that I disagreed with that in the context of I don't believe in Russell Wilson. But if the Steelers are seeing something within their facility on how Fields and on how Wilson's throwing the ball and how Wilson can lead an offense, like those are things that we knew heading into the year. Why I said Russell Wilson should start is because I think he's a better thrower of the football. Maybe not much. He's a better thrower of the football, and I think he can lead an offense and do the quarterbacky things that Mike Tomlin and coaches like. So if that's why they genuinely feel like he is the best starter for the team, then they should go with him. Yep.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what are their next few. You got the Giants on Monday Night Football, and then they have, let's see, after that, then they get the Commanders, Ravens, Browns. So there's a good chance that this team is, 8-3, 7-4 at worst, probably after that stretch.
Yeah.
So
they got to keep running the ball.
Continue winning games.
They got to keep running the ball. I mean, the fact
that
they ran the ball.
That's the part where I don't know if they can continue. Like I'm not. That's the part where I'm not maybe buying into last night, because last night they were able to run the ball pretty decently. Nothing dominant, but decently enough. But maybe Jaylen Warren being back helps out a little bit with that too.
Bobby, can I talk about
Justin,
something?
What was before we end the Big Four?
Before we end the Big Four. Wait, what other game do we have left?
We have
one more game left.
Texans in the Big Four.
Oh yeah, well yeah, let's talk about that first.
Why don't you talk to us about something before you finish off the Big Four?
Are you going to interrupt me?
No, you could talk about something.
A chill's in the air, leaves are falling to the ground, and there's football on every single weekend, and that's what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet on touchdowns. The Steelers scored so many touchdowns for once that I was just so excited to talk about DraftKings, because it's the number one place to bet on touchdowns. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5, you're going to instantly get $200 in bonus bets when you use code football today. That's all one word. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly. Staying on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns only on DraftKings. So download DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use promo code football today and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code football today. All one word, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did. Let's talk about one more game of the Big Four.
Big Four. The Final Four. Packers 24, Texans 22, Justin. This was a fun game. Actually, not so much. Like, this was a fun game because it was close, but I thought, is this C.J. Stroud's worst game of his career? Like, he went 10 of 21, 86 yards. Actually, you know what? This was a fun game because I like defense, and I love what the Packers defense was doing. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud went 10 of 21, 86 yards. You're like, oh, but Bobby, they scored 22 points. Well, 13 of those points came off of 3 drives that resulted in 40 yards, a muff punt and an interception by the Packers. And then they had a touchdown drive that was a legit drive, all running plays. Every play was a run play or Stroud incompletion. And then on their field goal drive at the end of the game, CJ Stroud had 13 passing yards. This is where, do you overreact to this, Justin? Because this is our worry with the Texans happened in this game, but they've not made it a worry in every other game. They've been able to go above it. Third down. 40% of CJ Stroud's dropbacks in this game were on third down. And then Jeff Hafley, the Packers' new defensive coordinator, and this is where not having Joe Barry is making a difference in them winning and losing games. His third down blitzes were beautiful.
Yep.
Right? He was showing blitz. He was making, dropping guys out, just throwing a bunch of different blitzes at CJ Stroud, and they weren't picking them up. Xavier McKinney's been playing in the box a little more. He got a free rush sack. But 40% of Stroud's dropbacks were on third down. Stroud was 2 for 7, 13 yards, 3 sacks, and 2 runs for 4 yards on third down. And then when he was blitzed, he was 1 of 5, 11 yards, and 3 sacks on those blitz plays. Do you worry, or is this an aberration game like the Jets game last year for CJ Stroud, where it's like, yeah, they may rely on third down a little bit too much, but he's been the best QB in the NFL on third down?
I'm going to call it an outlier. They need Nico Collins back. That's because Nico Collins has been the money guy on third down for CJ Stroud. We know that when CJ Stroud's under pressure, he throws the ball to Nico Collins. What really is, it's an outlier game for me, but what really is kind of strange, CJ Stroud, and it was Nico Collins, but also a guy's name that we haven't mentioned at all this year is really Tank Dell. Tank Dell dropped a touchdown pass in the first quarter within the first 15 minutes of Sunday's NFL slate. A very similar play to the touchdown catch that he had against the Patriots just the week before. So he drops that pass, and then I don't think he gets a catch for the remainder of the game. Tank Dell is like, I know he's coming off the ACL, but he was a legit weapon last year. A legit, he also averaged 19 yards per reception, but typically you envision a little bit of a shorter guy being more of a possession wide receiver, reliable, a lower average depth of target. That wasn't necessarily the case with Tank Dell. So I think it's an outlier, but the Texans offense needs to do a much better job of, yes, operating on early downs like we've talked about almost every week with them, but also you have Tank Dell here, who is a legit weapon for you, and I think he should be getting more than one target or one catch. Just because he dropped a touchdown pass early on, needs to be involved more outside of that.
I mean, even Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs obviously has contributed a lot to the Texans this year.
Yeah.
But don't you think with Nico Collins out, you kind of put him more in that X receiver role instead of being like, all right, we're going to give you some some shorter average depth of target throws. Use him a little more like they did in Buffalo. Where right here, they're not pushing the ball down the field to Stephon Diggs at all, and we know that he can be a player that does give up those explosives for you.
Right.
But to me, I'm not going to overreact to this either. What I will say is the Packers, man, firing Joe Barry and hiring Jeff Hafley can for a team that has big aspirations, that move right there could be the difference in getting to those expectations or not. I think they fired him a year late, but this game would have never happened under Joe Barry. It would have never, ever happened. And they just on third down, you're like, you know what? We're going to blitz like crazy. We know you want to run the ball on first down and second down. You're not going to do it very successfully. You're going to get in third and longs, and we're going to come after you. We're going to confuse you, and we're going to play with no fear. But at the same time, like you mentioned, Justin, this could just be an aberration game for the Texans as well.
But I do want to give a compliment to the Packers defense, though. This was the Eric Wilson game because he had 2 sacks.
He was all over the place.
He had a couple tackles. I mean, he had a really nice pass breakup, I think, on third down, too, over in the middle of the field. So this was the Eric Wilson game. And I was a guy that didn't really know that Eric Wilson, didn't really know what he was about. But, if you can get good linebacker play, I think it could change a defense. So the Eric Wilson game with a couple sacks, nice pass breakup in there. And this was a defense that got a lot of pressure on the quarterback that typically it's been a good defense so far this year, but they haven't had a ton of pressure on the quarterback. So yeah, Eric Wilson led the way with 2 sacks. He had McKinney that got a sack. Rashawn Gary had a sack, and then they did get, like, Rashawn Gary had 6 total pressures this game according to PFF. So if they continue to get pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah. Also, Titus Howard, don't just fall over. I don't know if you saw that play where Titus Howard just falls over. I don't know how I feel about Jordan Love, man. I've been trying to feel he's the only quarterback where I don't have these definitive feelings about. Like I've been trying to find that definitive feeling on Jordan Love. And it's like the Packers win games. He has the highest touchdown rate in the NFL this year. 15 touchdowns in 5 games. That's unbelievable. But he also has 8 interceptions in 5 games. Every single game he's thrown an interception. He has the 4th highest interception rate after Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Gardner Minshew. And he didn't throw the interceptions last year, but it was on the brink of it, consistently. And he didn't complete, the passes until, the first half of last year, where it's just there's so many wow. And then there's just other plays where it's it feels like you are just throwing to a spot in the middle of the field. And that spot, sometimes the guy's there and he's open, and other times it's intercepted.
The 2 touchdown throws were wow. The Wicks one was nice, but the Kraft one was wow.
I mean, that's a fire it in needle type throw. It's man, I love you. You should win MVP. Look at all these touchdowns. And then the Wicks one isn't a wow one, but it's a great throw.
Yeah.
But then it's all right, well, guess what? We also have interceptions, and we have them every game, and they have lost us games against the Minnesota Vikings. So it's just I want to feel definitive about Jordan Love. I either want to be he's overrated or I love him, and he just every week is like a roller coaster. So I'm gonna lean with I love him. But
yeah, I'm gonna lean I love him too. I think sometimes you got to live with a little bit of recklessness. I mean, they love to. I don't know the interception that was deep over 20 yards. I can't remember on the top of my head, but they clearly love, and if you look at a spray chart, you can see this. They clearly love throwing those quick little, I don't even want to call them curl routes, because the way that the receivers run, they're not going straight. But it kind of looks like they're either going to run a drag or a screen or something, and then they just sit in the middle of the field, close to the hashes. And I think that's where Jordan Love had a ton of completions in that general area of the field. But then on the interception, that's where Jordan Love is looking, and then just throws it into double coverage. And it's dude, what are you doing? I'm pretty sure if there was one guy that got the interception, wasn't it tipped up in the air by somebody that was caught? So there were 2 guys that were right there, double covered.
Yeah. All right, so that's our big 4, brought to you by all of our lovely sponsors. Do we have any more ad reads in this show?
We don't have any more ad reads in this show.
All right, let's hit the next 4, Justin. Saquon Barkley gets 170. We talked about what's the best revenge game this year. And it was Texans, Bills. Is it with Stephon Diggs? Saquon versus the Giants was kind of the answer. They booed him. He had 170 rushing yards, 3 explosive plays. Eagles smoke the Giants. Brian Dable, pulls out Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has ended up being booed. Drew Lock cheered. How good do you feel about the Eagles coming away from this game?
I feel like they have good football players, man. I mean, I don't really feel vastly different because I watch this Giants team every Sunday and, kind of know that the spot that they're in. Now, the Giants defense did relatively do a good job for the first half, and for the first quarter they did a good job, and Jalen Hurts did not do a lot through the air, but I mean, Saquon Barkley got his revenge, and this is from our guy Dalton Feely, and the tweet just went away. You scumbag, my fingers. The tweet just went away, and I'm going to find it in 2 seconds. With the Eagles up 28-3 with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, that's when he tweeted out. Looks like Saquon Barkley's game is over. Saquon Barkley, 176 rushing yards, was the second most of his career and the most in MetLife Stadium. Barkley's 176 rushing yards is the most the Giants have allowed versus a single rusher in the regular season since Jonathan Stewart on December 27th of 2009. How do you like that? That was a great game. Giants won that game. So Saquon Barkley had a really good game. And that's we know that the Eagles have stars in A.J. Brown, who made some plays, and Saquon Barkley, who made some plays. But outside of that, Eagles took care of business. Wasn't great, though.
Yeah. the Eagles are running the ball really well with Saquon Barkley. I think they need to keep Tyler Steen as a starter over Mekhi Becton, whether Mekhi Becton's healthy or not. They have the easy button of it, throwing the ball to A.J. Brown. But I will say from this point of view, if you've watched the Eagles games this year for this show, when you watch in the moment and you're watching all the commercials and all the commentary in between plays and you get like the real feel of a game, there is times with Jalen where it's like, what the hell? Like there was, and it ended up actually leading to 2 touchdowns anyways, because one play, like before the 4th down AJ Brown touchdown, they run mesh, and Devontae Smith is wide open underneath. He is the read, and he just doesn't throw it to him. Scrambles around, throws the ball away. They let 4th down and get it. The next one is like Saquon Barkley has this long run, gets them down there. They're down at the 4-yard line. It's 3rd down and 2. It's 3rd down and 2 at the Giants 4-yard line, and they run mesh again. And Saquon is the first read on this. He's wide open for a touchdown, and Mark Sanchez is like, he didn't throw it. Like, he's wide open. He doesn't throw it to Saquon Barkley. Scrambles around. Then they go to 4th down and 2. He has a scramble the next play, and they end up getting a touchdown. But it's like they have that running game and then A.J. Brown that makes you forget some of those things. But when you get down to it, you're not going to have that. But the Eagles defense has stepped up the last couple weeks. Amari Cooper, Justin. Yeah. First game for the Bills, not even knowing the full playbook. 4 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Keon Coleman has a 100-yard game. It is the Tennessee Titans, but is the Amari Cooper move making the Bills' needle move?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that Josh Allen did this game, and it could just be a Titans game plan type of thing, but we like the coaching there in Tennessee, and we like the schematics part of it on the defensive side of the ball. Josh Allen, his average depth of target was higher, and I feel like that could continue to be in a decent spot where I think it was 8.8, which is, you look at how many games in the NFL this year where you see 6 yards, 5 yards, 6 point something, 6 point this, where that's where the average depth of target is, and Josh Allen, big arm, and now he has these guys like Coleman that can go down the field and get it. Kincaid was getting some targets that were near at the sticks. And I think that's what Amari Cooper is going to do. I don't think Amari Cooper is necessarily this deep threat, even though he can do it. But because of just how much of a savvy route runner he is, I think he's just a savvy football player where the plays that he made, like on the sideline, Bobby, that deep play on the sideline that Cooper made, he's not open. It's just that he flashes those hands so late, so the cornerback has no idea that the ball is even coming. He's a savvy football player that I think is going to help out everybody else on that team, and even help out Josh Allen in trying to get that ball down the field, because I think other guys will come open now a lot easier than they did before. Yeah,
I think it's such a huge signing for them. Like, I'm waiting for them to play a good team to really get excited about it. But like, I really think like Bills, I think they have a legit shot to win the Super Bowl, like as good as anybody in the AFC, because of the Amari Cooper move. Without the Amari Cooper move, it's questionable. But I'm waiting for that November 17th game against the Chiefs. And I know they've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season quite often, and they lose from the playoffs, so you can't overreact to it. But you have Chiefs 49ers back-to-back and end of November. In the meantime, they have the Seahawks, Dolphins, and Colts, so can't get overexcited about winning those games, but I really love the Amari Cooper trade. Like, it got lost in the Devontae Adams sauce how good that is.
Yeah. Did you see that Amari Cooper didn't even know the play on the touchdown catch they had?
Yeah. He's just like Keon Coleman's kind of like just like post,
yeah.
And then he runs a post. And now, luckily, it was a cover 0 blitz, so it's like no matter what route you'll run, if you run it well, you're open on that play. But good shit. All right, Deshaun Watson's done. Torn his Achilles. Browns are awful. Might get the first pick in the draft, Justin. You know what was most shocking about that? I know everyone's arguing about should you boo Deshaun Watson if he tore his Achilles? I don't feel like getting into all that.
Nope.
Why didn't the Browns have Jameis Winston as their QB2?
Yeah, he was the QB3, and he was an inactive, a game day inactive, and because the new rules of the NFL, you can have 3 quarterbacks that can come in during the game day. So because Jameis Winston was inactive, you had DTR that came in first, and then DTR gets hurt, and then Jameis Winston comes in. So it's dumb. I don't know.
But I know that the Browns aren't looked at as a team that's going to win games, but like, if you're trying to win a game, like, you severely lowered it by having DTR as your backup in this one instead of Jameis Winston.
Well, they also really love him. Don't they, love him over there?
Yeah, which is unfortunate because he's, one of the worst. Like, really the only quarterback who was worse than him last year was P.J. Walker on the Browns. I think I think everybody involved needs to be fired. I think Kevin Stefanski getting Coach of the Year last year because of his defense was the worst award given out last year, worse than the Joe Flacco award. I think the GM, a coach, I don't care if they got the Browns to their first playoff victory ever, since they came back. I think everyone there needs to be fired. And you give a new GM and you promise him, hey, you have 4 years. Like, you get 4 years because of how bad the situation is. Do what you think best has us in the best spot available, because we've screwed you, because they keep on borrowing against the future. They are one of the oldest teams in the NFL. I mean, Jimmy Haslam is obviously an awful owner, so it goes from top down. So I don't think the Browns firing everyone makes everything better. But I think everyone involved needs to be fired,
including the GM.
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Tell me why the GM shouldn't be fired.
No, I mean, the only argument that you can make is that the rest of the team that they've constructed is really good.
Is it though?
But I'm with you, because you want to know why? With this Deshaun Watson trade, and instead of within the first year and a half of it, Bobby, year and a half. I mean, people have been talking about how Deshaun Watson's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and I know he's been injured and coming off whatever suspension. So you got to give him more time. You got to give him more time. Okay, but what the Browns have done since that initial point, that initial starting point of starting him and then he's not good, is since then they've doubled down, they've quadrupled down, and everything that the Browns have been good at pre-Deshaun Watson, they've ruined and they've stripped from their organization. They've ruined and stripped from it. This used to be a team that was going to win with physicality, which they still do on defense. But offensively, that's how they were going to win. That is gone. They threw the ball. This was a 21-14 game with 3 different quarterbacks. We were talking about it before the show. Bobby, they threw the ball 52 times. 52 times. That's not who Kevin Stefanski is. It's not the Kevin Stefanski that I grew up to, love as a coach. So I'm with you. They have doubled, quadrupled, 5, 6 tuplet times down on Deshaun Watson on trying to make it work, where now they've stripped any of their identity that was good to begin with. It's gone. So everybody, I agree with you. Everybody, I think they need a very, very clean reset.
Has the Browns defense been good? They've drafted some good defensive players, having Myles Garrett involved. They've made some all-in moves, like Zadarius Smith. But here's the offensive players that have been drafted with Andrew Berry as their GM since 2020. Jedrick Wills, Harrison Bryant, the tight end, Nick Harris, the center, Donovan Peoples-Jones, the wide receiver. Okay? None of those are good draft picks. Jedrick Wills has been a starter, but he's not good. Anthony Schwartz in the 3rd round, bust. James Hudson in the 4th round, bad. Demetric Felton in the 6th round, bad. Right? And again, the NFL is won by offensive games. 2022, who did they draft on offense? Didn't have any 1st-round picks because of the Deshaun Watson trade. David Bell in the 3rd round, not good. Jerome Ford, 5th round, not good. Michael Woods, never played. Deshaun Deaton, never played. And then this last year, 2023, let's go through this. Cedric Tillman in the 3rd round, not a good player. DeJuan Jones, not a good player, even though people got excited about him. DTR in the 5th round, not a good player, and you traded Josh Dobbs for him, and it screwed you last year. Luke Weichler, not a good player. And then this last year, I don't think they had Zach Zinter. Well, I watched one game. It was awful. Jamari Thrash. I love Jamari Thrash. Congrats on drafting JOK and having Myles Garrett already in place, and then making a move to trade for Zadarius Smith, but they had Denzel Ward already in place. They had, so everyone involved needs to be fired. All right, last thing we want to hit on: should the 4-3 Colts go back to Joe Flacco?
Yes,
they got a tough go ahead. They have a legit shot to make the playoffs, and Anthony Richardson does not give them the better opportunity to win. It lets down guys like Josh Downs and Michael Pittman to play Anthony Richardson.
Colts are in the playoffs right now. They have the 7th seed. Now they
got some tough games ahead, so I don't think I'm picking them to win with Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco playing gives them a chance. I don't think Richardson gives them a chance. No. He doesn't complete 50% of his passes.
No. Next. Like that's it.
But you don't put development over, wanting to win these next games. If
he was maybe completing 50% of his passes, and I'm saying that kind of facetiously, but you can't run an offense right now with Anthony Richardson. I'm sorry, and I don't think it is giving up on him. But you have a team that's 4-3 that's in the playoffs right now, that is in a hunt for something, and you have a roster that's not bad. I think you need to give yourself the best chance to win, and that's just not Anthony Richardson right now.
Yeah, I think with this 5-game stretch, you have Texans, Vikings, Bills, Jets, and Lions. They're not going to be favored in any of those games except for maybe the Jets. You play Joe Flacco. If you come out on the other side still in the playoff hunt, sick. If you don't, then you finish the season with Anthony Richardson, and then year 3 is just do or die with him.
Yep.
Where it's like your development is on you. Drake May, I thought, looked pretty good in London, even though they lost. All right, that's an episode of Football Today. We'll be back Wednesday with the rankings of the power, and then Friday we'll do whatever we damn want. Whatever we damn well please. Rose won't be with us. He's still working, or he's not. He's doing a little vacation over in Europe, right? Taking advantage of being over there, correct?
I believe so, with the wife.
What country is he going to be in? I don't know. But go find his ass and tell him we said hello. We'll see you on Wednesday. Until then, that is Football Today.